My stepson brought his mother to live in my house, without asking me, so I made a decision he didn't expect. I came home from work on a Tuesday afternoon and found a woman in my kitchen. Not just any woman, my husband's ex-wife, Brian's mother, unpacking groceries in my house. "Oh, Karen," she said brightly when she saw me. "Brian didn't tell you I was coming." I stood there, frozen, staring at Linda, a woman I'd met exactly twice in 15 years, standing in my kitchen like she belonged there. "Coming?" I managed. "Coming for what?" "To stay." Brian said it would be fine. "My lease ended and I needed a place while I look for something new. He said you had the space." Stay. In my house. Brian's mother. Living here. Without anyone asking me. My husband Greg walked in behind me. Saw Linda. Saw my face. "Karen, we should talk." "Yes," I said coldly. "We should. My name is Karen Mitchell. I'm 54 years old. I've been married to Greg for 15 years. I've been Brian's stepmother since he was 12. And this week, my adult stepson decided to move his mother into my house. The house I own. The house I bought before I ever met Greg. Without asking my permission. So I made a decision. A decision that shocked everyone. A decision I don't regret. This is the story of what happens when someone violates your home, your boundaries, your basic right to decide who lives in your space. Let me start at the beginning so you understand how we got here. I met Greg 16 years ago. I was 38, divorced for 5 years, living in a house I'd bought with my own money after my first marriage ended. 3 bedrooms, nice neighborhood, completely paid off, my sanctuary. Greg was 45, divorced for 7 years. He had 1 son, Brian, then 11. His ex-wife Linda had primary custody. Greg had Brian every other weekend and Wednesday nights. Linda had left Greg for another man. When Brian was 4, the divorce was messy, bitter. Linda had cheated, but somehow she'd still gotten primary custody. Greg had never fully gotten over the betrayal or the custody arrangement. When I met Greg, he was still angry about it, still bitter about Linda, still resentful that she'd blown up their family and gotten to keep their son most of the time. "I'm not looking to replace Brian's mother," I told him early on. "I know that's not my role." "Good, because Linda would make that hell anyway. She's difficult." That was an understatement. After Greg and I had been dating for a year, he introduced me to Brian. The kid was 12, awkward, clearly uncomfortable with his dad dating. "This is Karen," Greg said. "She's important to me." Brian nodded, said hi, looked at me like I was an obstacle he had to tolerate. Over the next year, as Greg and I got more serious, Brian remained distant, polite but cold, never rude, but never warm either. "He's adjusting," Greg said. "Give him time." When Greg and I got engaged, Linda lost her mind, called Greg screaming. "You're replacing me. You're confusing Brian. This is too fast." Too fast. We'd been dating for 2 years, but Linda couldn't stand that Greg was moving on. She started poisoning Brian against me. Subtle at first. Comments like, "I hope your dad's girlfriend doesn't try to act like your mom." Then more direct. "You don't have to be nice to her. She's not family." Brian started acting differently, more hostile, less willing to engage, made it clear he saw me as an intruder. Greg and I got married when Brian was 14. Small ceremony. Brian attended but was clearly uncomfortable. Left immediately after. After the wedding, we had to decide where to live. Greg's apartment was small. My house had 3 bedrooms. "Let's live in your house," Greg suggested. "More space. Better for Brian when he visits." "You're sure?" "It's my house. Bought before you. I'll keep it in my name." "I understand. Makes sense financially." So Greg moved into my house. Brian had a room for his visits. Everything seemed fine, except Linda hated it. Hated that Greg was living in another woman's house. Hated that Brian had a room there. Made comments to Brian about how your dad chose her house over having a real home with you. Brian internalized that. Started refusing to come over. Would tell Greg he didn't want to visit. Greg would push. Brian would resist. Linda would support Brian's choice. By the time Brian was 16, he barely visited. Maybe once a month. Always tense. Always uncomfortable. "He's a teenager," people said. This is normal. But it wasn't normal teenage rebellion. It was Linda's influence, her resentment, her need to punish Greg and me for moving on. Brian graduated high school, went to college, visited even less. Greg would drive to see him, but Brian never came home, said he was too busy, or had plans with friends. The real reason? Linda had convinced him that my house wasn't his home, that I was the reason he and Greg weren't close, that everything would be different if Greg had never remarried. For years, I tried to build a relationship with Brian, sent care packages at college, remembered birthdays, asked about his life, got minimal responses. He'll come around, Greg said. But he never did. Brian graduated college, got a job in the city, started his adult life. Greg saw him occasionally for lunch or coffee. Never at our house, never including me. It's fine, I told Greg. He's your son. You have a relationship with him. That's what matters. I wish he'd include you. He won't, and I've accepted that. Just don't expect me to keep trying. So I stopped reaching out, stopped sending gifts, stopped asking about Brian. He was Greg's son, and Greg could maintain that relationship. I was done trying to force something that Brian clearly didn't want. 3 months ago, Brian called Greg. Mom's having trouble. Her landlord is selling the building. She needs to find a new place. That's unfortunate, Greg said. I hope she finds something. It's expensive. She's struggling. I'm helping her look, but everything's out of her budget. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm not sure what I can do. Well, I was thinking, you and Karen have that extra bedroom, the one that used to be my room. Nobody's using it. Greg was quiet. Then, Brian, are you asking if your mother can live with us? Just temporarily, until she finds a place. A few months, maybe. That's not my decision alone. Karen owns the house. I'd have to ask her. Just ask her. Please, Dad. Mom needs help. Greg hung up and told me about the conversation. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. I figured you'd say that. Good. So we're on the same page. But Karen, what if Brian really needs help? What if Linda has nowhere to go? Then Brian can let Linda stay with him. Or Linda can find a cheaper apartment. Or figure out her own housing. But she's not living in my house. It would just be temporary. No, Greg. She's your ex-wife, a woman who hates me, who spent 15 years poisoning Brian against me. She's not living here. I understand. I'll tell Brian no. But I saw the guilt in his eyes, the conflict. Part of him wanted to help Linda because it would help Brian, because saying no meant disappointing his son. 2 weeks later, Brian called again. Dad, Mom's situation is getting desperate. The move-out date is in 2 weeks. She hasn't found anything affordable. I'm sorry, Brian, but Karen said no. It's her house. I can't override that. You can't even ask again? Explain how serious this is? I did explain. The answer is no. So you're just going to let Mom be homeless because Karen won't help? Your mother won't be homeless. She'll find something. And if she can't, you can help her. But she's not moving into our house. Brian hung up angry. Didn't call back for 2 weeks. Then came this Tuesday, when I walked into my kitchen and found Linda unpacking groceries. After I told Greg we needed to talk, we went into our bedroom, closed the door. What the hell is Linda doing here? I said, voice shaking with rage. Brian brought her, this morning, while you were at work, and you let him. I didn't know he was bringing her. He just showed up with her and all her stuff, said it was decided, that she was moving into his old room. It was decided? By who? By him, apparently. And you didn't tell him to leave? Didn't tell him absolutely not? Karen, she was already here, with all her stuff. Brian was insistent, said it was temporary, said he'd already told her she could stay. So you just let it happen? What was I supposed to do? Throw her out on the street? Yes, this is my house. She can't just move in without my permission. I know. I told Brian that. But he said he'd cleared it with me weeks ago. Did he? No. I told him we said no, but he's claiming I said it would be okay. He's lying. I know, but Linda was already unpacking. Brian was already gone. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to call me immediately. Tell me what happened. Let me handle it. I was going to, but then you got home. So your plan was what? Let me come home to your ex-wife in my kitchen and just deal with it? He looked miserable. I didn't know what to do. You didn't know what to do? This is my house, Greg. Mine. I bought it before you. I kept it in my name. Linda has no right to be here. And you let Brian just install her? I'm sorry. You're right. I should have made her leave immediately. Yes, you should have. So make her leave now. Now? Right now. Go tell her this was a mistake, that she needs to leave, that she's not welcome here. Karen, it's almost evening. Where will she go? I don't care. Hotel. Brian's place. Back to her old apartment if it's not emptied yet. Anywhere but my house. Can she at least stay tonight? Figure things out tomorrow? I stared at him. You're asking me to let your ex-wife sleep in my house tonight. Just one night to figure out arrangements. Then she'll leave tomorrow. No. Karen. No, Greg. She leaves today. Now. Or I do. He looked shocked. You'd leave over this? I'd leave over you prioritizing your ex-wife's comfort over my basic right to control who lives in my own house. Yes. Silence. Long, horrible silence. Finally. I'll talk to her. Not talk. Tell. Tell her she needs to leave. Now. He left the room. I heard muffled voices from the kitchen. Linda's voice rising. But Brian said... Greg's voice firm. I don't care what Brian said. This is Karen's house. You can't stay. Where am I supposed to go? That's not our problem. You need to leave. This is ridiculous. Brian told me it was fine. Brian doesn't own this house. He can't give you permission to stay here. You need to pack your things and go. More arguing. Then silence. Then the sound of Linda making phone calls. Talking to Brian, probably. An hour later, Brian showed up. Came storming into the house. Dad, what the hell? You're kicking Mom out? I'm not kicking her out. I'm telling her she can't stay here. She was never invited. You had no right to bring her here. You said it was fine weeks ago. I explicitly said no. Karen said no. You knew that. You brought her anyway. Because I thought you'd change your mind once she was here. She has nowhere to go. That's not our problem, Brian. Not your problem. She's my mother. And this is Karen's house. She doesn't want Linda living here. That's her right. Karen's being unreasonable. I stepped into the living room. I'm being unreasonable. You moved someone into my house without asking me. How is that reasonable? It's temporary. She just needs a few months. I don't care if it's one night. She's not welcome here. You don't get to make that decision. This used to be my house too. My room. No, Brian. This was never your house. This is my house that your father moved into when we got married. You had a room here for visits. But you're an adult now, living on your own. You don't have any claim to this space. And you definitely don't have the right to move someone else in. You're such a bitch. Greg stepped forward. Brian, do not talk to Karen like that. It's true. She's always hated Mom. This is just her being spiteful. This is me protecting my home, I said calmly. Your mother has spent 15 years making sure you knew I wasn't family. Fine. But that means she's not family either. And I don't let non-family move into my house. Dad, are you really going to let her do this? Greg looked torn. Looked at me. Looked at Brian. Then, yes, Karen's right. Your mother can't stay here. You shouldn't have brought her without asking. This is on you, not us. Fuck you both. Brian stormed out. Linda packed her things. Brian came back with a truck. They loaded everything. Linda didn't say goodbye, just left with tight lips and angry eyes. After they were gone, Greg and I stood in the living room. That was awful, he said. Yes. Brian's furious. I'm sure he is. He might not speak to us for a while. Probably not. Was it worth it? Destroying my relationship with my son over this? I looked at him. Really looked at him. Greg, your relationship with Brian was already destroyed. Has been for years. He barely visits. Barely calls. Keeps you at arm's length. And that's not because of me. That's because Linda spent 15 years making sure he sees me as the enemy. And you as the traitor who chose me. But this made it worse. No, this made it clear. Brian thought he could manipulate the situation. Bring Linda here without asking. Force us to accept it. And when we didn't, he showed his true colors. Called me a bitch. Chose his mother over any relationship with you. He's upset. He's 30 years old. He's not a child. He made a calculated decision to violate my boundaries. And when I enforced those boundaries, He attacked me. That's not upset. That's who he is. Greg didn't respond. Couldn't argue. If you've ever had someone try to force their way into your home, install someone without permission, violate your space, expect you to just accept it, you know this violation, this rage. Share your experience in the comments. And if these stories of boundary enforcement resonate with you, please subscribe to Lindsay Stories. The next day, I made my decision. The one Greg didn't expect. The one that would change everything. I called a real estate agent. "I want to sell my house," I said. "How quickly can we list it? I can have it on the market by next week. It's a seller's market right now. You'll get good offers." "Perfect. Let's do it." I didn't tell Greg. Not yet. I scheduled showings, got the house ready, made plans. 2 weeks later, I sat Greg down. "I'm selling the house." He looked confused. "What? Why?" "Because it's been violated. Brian brought Linda here without permission. You let it happen, even if temporarily. This space no longer feels like mine, so I'm selling it." "Karen, that's extreme." "Is it? Brian thinks he has a claim to this house, thinks he can make decisions about who lives here. The only way to make it absolutely clear that he doesn't is to sell it. Remove it from the equation entirely. But where will we live? That depends. On what? On whether you're willing to start fresh with me, in a new place. That's ours. That Brian has no history with, no claim to, no memories of. You're asking me to choose between you and Brian. No, I'm asking you to choose a life with me that doesn't include Brian's constant interference and Linda's lingering presence. If you want to maintain a relationship with Brian, you can. But it'll be separate from our home, from our life together. That's still asking me to choose. Then choose, because I'm selling this house either way. The question is whether you're coming with me to the next place or whether we're done." He stared at me. "You'd end our marriage over this? I'd end our marriage over you not defending my basic right to my own home, over you letting Brian manipulate the situation, over you feeling guilty about Linda when she's not your responsibility anymore. Yes, I love you. I love you too. But love isn't enough if you can't respect my boundaries, if you can't put our marriage first, if you're always going to feel torn between me and Brian's demands. I put you first. I made Linda leave, after I threatened to leave, after an hour of arguing, after letting Brian install her in the first place. That's not putting me first. That's damage control." He looked devastated. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to be clear about priorities. Our marriage comes first, always. Not Brian, not Linda, not guilt about the past. Us. If you can commit to that, really commit, not just say it, then we move forward together. If you can't, then we end this now. I commit. I choose us. I choose you. Then prove it. Support my decision to sell this house. Help me find a new place. Make it clear to Brian that he has no say in our lives. And stop feeling guilty about Linda. I'll try. Not try. Do, or we're done." He nodded. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll support the sale. We'll find a new place together. Start fresh." The house sold in 3 weeks. Multiple offers. I accepted one well above asking price. Greg and I found a beautiful condo downtown. 2 bedrooms. Modern. Expensive. No space for Brian's old room. No history. No connection to the past. We moved in 2 months after I listed the house. Greg helped pack. Helped move. Never complained. Seemed almost relieved to be starting fresh. Brian called during the move. "Dad, I heard you're selling the house. Is that true?" "Yes. Karen's selling it." "Where are you going to live?" "We bought a condo downtown." "How many bedrooms?" 2. "So no room for me?" "You're 30 years old with your own apartment. Why would we need a room for you?" "I don't know. In case I wanted to visit." "You haven't visited in 5 years. Why start now?" Silence. Then, "Is this because of Mom? Because I brought her there?" "Partially. But mostly it's because Karen wanted a fresh start, in a space that's ours, with no history. So I'm just not welcome? You're welcome to visit if you can be respectful to Karen. But this is our home, not yours. You don't have a room here. You don't have a claim here. This is me and Karen's space." "Wow, so you really did choose her over me." "I chose my wife over my adult son, who tried to manipulate me into housing my ex-wife. Yes, Mom was right about you. Probably. Doesn't change anything. Brian hung up. Hasn't called since. That was 6 months ago. Greg seems lighter, less burdened. Like he's finally let go of the guilt he's carried for 15 years. Do you miss him? I asked one evening in our new condo. Sometimes, but not as much as I thought I would. Is that terrible? No, it's honest. I spent years feeling guilty. About the divorce, about Linda getting primary custody, about Brian not wanting to visit, about not being close to him. But the truth is, Brian made his choice long ago. He chose Linda, chose to believe her version of things, chose to keep me at a distance. And I kept hoping he'd change, that eventually he'd see things differently. But he won't. No, he won't. So maybe this is better. Clean break. No more guilt. No more trying. Just acceptance. I'm sorry it came to this. I'm not. Because I have you. And a home that's actually ours. And peace. That's worth more than a relationship with a son who doesn't respect me or my wife. I took his hand. I love you. I love you too. Thank you for making me choose. I needed that. You're welcome. 3 months after we moved, Linda called Greg. Brian's been depressed. He won't talk to me about it, but I think it's about you. Can you reach out? No. He's your son. He's an adult who called my wife a bitch and tried to force my ex-wife into her home. If he wants to talk to me, he knows how to reach me. But I'm not chasing him anymore. You're really going to abandon him? I'm not abandoning him. I'm setting boundaries, something I should have done years ago. This is Karen's influence. This is me finally prioritizing my marriage. Goodbye, Linda. He hung up, blocked her number. I should have done that years ago, too. Yes, you should have. Better late than never. Agreed. 2 months ago, Brian sent a letter to our new address. How he got it, I don't know. Maybe Linda tracked us down somehow. The letter was addressed to Greg. Dad, I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. About Mom needing a place to stay. About you saying no. About you selling the house. I still think you were wrong. I still think Karen overreacted. But I'm willing to move past it if you are. I miss you. I want to try to rebuild our relationship. Can we talk? Brian, Greg showed me the letter. What do you think? What do you think? I think he's not apologizing. He's saying I was wrong. He's saying you overreacted. But he's willing to move past it if I am. Like he's doing me a favor. Exactly. So I shouldn't respond? That's up to you. But if you do respond, make it clear. He doesn't get to come back into your life without acknowledging what he did wrong, without respecting me, without accepting that our marriage comes first. Greg nodded, wrote back, Brian, I appreciate you reaching out, but I'm not interested in rebuilding a relationship where you think I was wrong and Karen overreacted. What happened was simple. You tried to move your mother into Karen's house without permission. That was wrong. Karen enforcing her boundaries was not an overreaction. It was appropriate. If you want a relationship with me, it starts with acknowledging that, with apologizing to Karen, with respecting our marriage. If you can't do that, then we don't have anything to rebuild. Dad? Brian never responded. That was 8 weeks ago. Do you think he will? I asked Greg. Respond? Probably not. He'd have to admit he was wrong. Apologize to you. I don't think he's capable of that. Are you okay with that? Surprisingly, yes. I thought losing Brian would devastate me. But it hasn't. Because what we had wasn't real anyway. It was me chasing, him avoiding, Linda manipulating. That's not a relationship. That's dysfunction. And I'm tired of dysfunction. Me too. So here's to our peaceful Brian-free life. To peace. We clinked glasses, sat in our beautiful condo that belonged to us and nobody else. And I felt free. Free from Brian's resentment, from Linda's interference, from Greg's guilt. Free to just be married, just be us, without the constant weight of a stepson who hated me and an ex-wife who poisoned everything. Was it sad that it came to this? Maybe. But it was also necessary. Brian tried to violate my home. Greg let it happen, even briefly, and I responded by removing the home from the equation, selling it, starting fresh somewhere Brian had no claim to. And in doing so, I saved my marriage, forced Greg to choose, made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate having my boundaries violated. Some might say I overreacted, that selling the house was extreme, that cutting off Brian was cruel. But I disagree. Brian was 30 years old. He made a calculated decision to move his mother into my house without asking. He knew I'd say no, so he did it anyway and hoped I'd just accept it. When I didn't, when I enforced my boundary, he called me a bitch, showed his true feelings, made it clear he'd never respected me and never would. Why would I maintain a relationship with someone like that? Why would I keep my home, my sanctuary, when it had been violated? I wouldn't, so I didn't. And now Greg and I have a fresh start, a clean slate, a home that's ours with no ghosts of the past. That's worth every bit of drama, every hard conversation, every difficult choice. My name is Karen Mitchell. I'm 54 years old. 6 months ago, my stepson brought his mother to live in my house without asking me. So I sold the house, started fresh, cut ties with Brian, forced Greg to choose our marriage. And I don't regret it. Not for a second, because my home is my sanctuary. And nobody, not Brian, not Linda, not anyone, gets to violate that without consequences. Share this if you've ever had to enforce boundaries in your own home. Comment if you've had someone try to move into your space without permission. Subscribe to Lindsay's Stories for more stories of boundary enforcement. My house, my rules, my decision, and it was the right one. That's everything. What I haven't fully explained yet is how calculated Brian's move was, how deliberate, how much planning went into bringing Linda to my house that day. Because it wasn't spontaneous, it wasn't a desperate last-minute decision. It was strategic manipulation, and understanding that makes everything else make sense. The day after Linda moved out, I did some digging, called a friend who's a property manager, asked her to look up Linda's old building. I need to know, was it actually being sold? Was she actually being evicted? My friend called back 2 hours later, found it. The building's not being sold. Linda gave notice 2 months ago, voluntarily, broke her lease early and paid the penalty. She chose to leave? Looks like it. Gave notice in April. Move-out date was June 15th. That's when Brian brought her to your place, right? Yes. He said the landlord was selling the building, that she had nowhere to go. That was a lie. She had 2 months to find a place. She chose not to. I sat with that information, processing. Linda hadn't been desperate. She'd orchestrated this, given notice on her apartment, planned to move in with us, and Brian had lied about the circumstances to make it seem like an emergency. Why would she do that? Greg asked when I told him. Think about it. She's been divorced from you for 26 years. You've been remarried for 15. All that time she's had to accept that you moved on, that you have a life with me, that you're not coming back. So maybe she saw an opportunity. Brian suggesting she could stay here. Live in your house. Well, my house. Be part of your daily life again. Insert herself back into your world. That's twisted. Is it? Or is it just Linda being Linda? You said yourself she's never gotten over the divorce. Never really moved on. Maybe this was her way of getting back into your life. By manipulating Brian into lying to us? Brian didn't need much manipulating. He spent his whole life believing Linda's version of things. That you abandoned them. That I stole you away. Of course he'd help her. Greg looked sick. So they planned this together. Maybe. Or Linda planted the idea and Brian ran with it. Either way, it was deliberate deception. And I almost let it work. You did let it work. For a few hours. He flinched. I should have called you immediately. Yes, you should have. I was in shock. Didn't know what to do. You should have known to call me. This is my house. My decision. Always. I know. I'm sorry. But sorry wasn't enough. The violation had happened, and I couldn't unknow that Greg's first instinct hadn't been to protect my boundaries. It had been to accommodate Linda because he felt guilty, because Brian was pushing, because he was conflict-averse. That's when I knew. The house had to go, not as punishment, but as protection. As long as that house existed, Brian would see it as his father's house, would feel entitled to make decisions about it, would try again someday. Selling it removed that possibility, made it clear. You have no claim here, no history here. No right to make decisions here. The real estate agent came to assess the house 2 days after I called her. Beautiful property, she said, walking through. Great bones. Well maintained. You'll get top dollar in this market. How quickly can we sell? With staging and photos, we could list by next week. I'd expect offers within days, maybe multiple. People are desperate for houses in this neighborhood. Let's do it. She pulled out paperwork. I signed everything. Made decisions about staging, photography, pricing, all without consulting Greg. He noticed, of course. You're really doing this? Yes, without discussing it with me. I told you I was selling. You said you'd support it. What's to discuss? I don't know. The price? The timeline? Whether we're ready? The price is what the market will bear. The timeline is as fast as possible. And I'm ready. Are you? He couldn't answer that. Because he wasn't ready. Wasn't ready to let go of the house where he'd lived for 15 years. Where Brian's room was. Where he had memories. But those memories were exactly why the house had to go. I need you to be on board with this, I said. Really on board. Not just saying you support it while secretly hoping I'll change my mind. I am on board. Then act like it. Help me pack. Help me stage. Help me show the house. Be part of this decision, instead of just tolerating it. He nodded. Okay, I'll help. And to his credit, he did. Sorted through belongings, packed boxes, made decisions about what to keep and what to donate, cleaned and organized for staging. But I could see the sadness, the reluctance, the grief for what we were leaving. You're mourning the house, I observed one evening while we packed. A little. 15 years of memories here. Good memories. Some. Our wedding reception was here. Holiday dinners. Quiet evenings. Yes, good memories. And bad ones. He was quiet. Brian refusing to visit. Arguments about him. Linda's phone calls complaining about things. The tension whenever Brian did come over. And then, that day, Linda in the kitchen. So more bad than good, in the end. Maybe. Yeah, then let it go. Let's make new memories somewhere that doesn't have all that weight. You're right. I know you're right. It's just hard. I know. But necessary. The house listed on a Thursday. By Saturday, we had 7 showing requests. By Monday, we had 4 offers. All above asking price. I accepted the highest offer. All cash, quick close, 30 days. 30 days! Greg looked panicked. Where are we going to live? We'll find something. We have time. But finding something proved harder than expected. Every place we looked at, Greg found reasons to say no. Too small. Too expensive. Bad neighborhood. No storage. After the 10th rejection, I confronted him. You're sabotaging this. I'm not. I just want to find the right place. No. You're stalling. Hoping if we don't find something, we can't move. Maybe back out of the sale. That's not... Greg, be honest. Do you want to move? Long pause. Then, I don't know. Part of me does. Part of me wants to start fresh like you said. But part of me feels like we're running away. Like we're letting Brian win. Letting Brian win? He tried to force his mother into my house. We said no. We're moving on. How is that him winning? Because he drove us out of our home. No. I'm choosing to sell because the home was violated. That's not being driven out. That's taking control. It feels the same. It's not. Driven out would be if we left because we were afraid of Brian, or couldn't handle the conflict. We're leaving because I want a fresh start, in a place that's ours, with no connection to Brian or Linda. That's empowerment, not retreat. I never thought about it that way. Think about it that way. We're not running. We're choosing. There's a difference. After that conversation, Greg engaged more seriously with house hunting. We found the condo 3 days before our close date. Perfect location, perfect size, perfect fresh start. Greg loved it. This feels right. Like ours. It is ours. We closed on both properties the same week. Sold the house on Tuesday. Bought the condo on Thursday. Moved over the weekend. It was exhausting, chaotic, but also liberating. Watching the movers empty the house. My house for 19 years. Our house for 15. I felt no sadness, just relief. The space had been contaminated by Brian's entitlement, by Linda's presence, by Greg's momentary failure to protect it. Letting it go felt like shedding weight. The condo felt different immediately. Clean. Unburdened. Ours in a way the house never fully had been. "I like it here," Greg said on our first night. "It feels, peaceful. No ghosts." Exactly. We christened every room, made new memories, claimed the space as completely ours. 2 weeks after we moved, my friend Sarah came to visit. Brought wine, toasted the new place. "It's gorgeous," she said. "But I have to ask, do you regret selling the other house?" "Not for a second." "Really? No nostalgia? No second thoughts?" "None. That house stopped being mine the moment Linda walked into the kitchen. Selling it was the only way to reclaim my power. Some people would say you let Brian push you out. Some people don't understand the difference between retreat and strategic repositioning. I didn't flee. I chose to move to higher ground, where Brian has no leverage." "That's very Sun Tzu of you," I laughed. "Maybe, but it's true. In the old house, Brian could always make claims. That was my room. I grew up there. I have memories there. Here, he has nothing. No history, no claim. Just the reality that he's not welcome unless he respects me. Has he tried to visit? No, and he won't, because visiting would mean acknowledging this is our home, accepting that we moved on without him. His pride won't allow that. So you've effectively cut him out." "He cut himself out. I just made it official." Sarah raised her glass. "To strategic repositioning. To reclaiming power." We drank to that. 3 months into our new life, Linda called Greg again. I heard his side of the conversation. "No, Linda, I'm not going to talk to Brian for you, because he's an adult, and if he wants to talk to me, he can call himself. I don't care if he's too proud. That's his problem. No, we're not coming for Thanksgiving, because we're not welcome and we know it. You're inviting us now? After everything? That's rich. No thanks. We have our own plans. Goodbye, Linda." He hung up, blocked her number, looked at me. "She invited us for Thanksgiving. At her place. With Brian. How generous, right? Like everything's fine. Like Brian didn't call you a bitch. Like she didn't scheme to move into our house. They're trying to reset. Pretend none of it happened. Well, I'm not playing along. Good. She said Brian misses me. That he's been depressed. That I'm being cruel by cutting him off. And I told her that if Brian misses me, he knows how to reach me. I'm not chasing him anymore. How did that feel? Scary and liberating. Mostly liberating? Good. You're learning. Learning what? That you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Brian and Linda are responsible for their own happiness, not you. I spent so many years thinking I had to fix things. Had to make Brian love me. Had to prove I wasn't the bad guy. And I can't. He's going to believe what Linda taught him no matter what I do. So why keep trying? Exactly. It's freeing. Sad, but freeing. That's okay. Sadness and freedom can coexist. He pulled me close. Thank you. For what? For making me choose. For drawing the line. For not letting me waffle forever. You're welcome. I needed that ultimatum. Needed someone to force me to actually commit instead of trying to please everyone. You can't please everyone. No. But I can make you happy. And that's enough. 4 months after we moved, Brian sent another letter. This one's shorter. "Dad, I don't understand why you're doing this. Why you're choosing her over me. I'm your son. Doesn't that mean anything?" "Brian," Greg showed me. "What do I say? Do you want to respond?" "I feel like I should, even just to be clear." "Then be clear." He wrote back that same day. "Brian, I'm not choosing her over you. I'm choosing my marriage over your attempts to manipulate me. I'm choosing my peace over your drama. I'm choosing to respect my wife's boundaries over your entitlement. You tried to move your mother into Karen's house without permission. When Karen said no, you called her a bitch. Those actions have consequences. If you want a relationship with me, start by apologizing to Karen. Acknowledge what you did wrong. Show respect for our marriage. Until then, we have nothing to discuss." "Dad?" Brian didn't respond. That was 4 months ago. We haven't heard from him since. "Do you think we ever will?" I asked Greg recently. "Hear from him?" "Maybe, when he needs something. Money, support, something. But a real relationship where he respects us both? No, I don't think that's possible." Does that bother you? Less than it used to. I've accepted that Brian is who Linda raised him to be. Someone who sees me as the enemy who left, who sees you as the villain who stole me. That's not going to change, so you've made peace with it. I'm making peace with it. Some days are harder than others, but overall, yes, I'd rather have peace without Brian than conflict with him. Me too. I know. That's why you sold the house, to force the issue, to make it impossible to keep straddling the fence. Do you resent me for that? No, I'm grateful. If you hadn't forced my hand, I'd still be trying to please everyone and pleasing no one. This way, at least our marriage is solid. That matters more than anything else. Yes, it does. 6 months in, our life has settled into a comfortable routine. Greg and I work, come home to our condo, cook together, watch TV, take weekend trips, live our lives without the constant weight of Brian's resentment or Linda's interference. It's peaceful, genuinely peaceful. No surprise visits, no phone calls complaining, no Brian showing up to push boundaries, no guilt trips about not doing enough. Just us, our marriage, our life. Last week we ran into one of Brian's childhood friends at a restaurant. Michael, someone who used to come over when Brian visited. Hey, Mr. Mitchell, how are you? Good, Michael. How are you? Great. Hey, I heard you moved. Brian mentioned it. We did. Downtown now. Nice. Brian also mentioned, well, he seemed pretty upset about everything. Said you guys aren't talking? Greg's face closed off. That's between Brian and me. Right. Sorry, I wanted to say, for what it's worth, Brian can be really difficult. I love the guy, but he's always had this victim complex. Like everyone's against him, and he never takes responsibility for anything. I've noticed. I'm sure you have. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you, whatever happened between you guys, don't feel too guilty. Brian's an adult. He makes his own choices, and from what I've seen, he makes a lot of bad ones. Thank you, Michael. That means a lot. After Michael left, Greg was quiet. You okay? I asked. Yeah, it's validating to hear someone else say what I've been thinking. That Brian has issues, that it's not all my fault. It's not your fault at all. You've tried for 30 years. He's refused to meet you halfway. I know, but it helps to hear someone else confirm it. You needed external validation. I did, and I got it. How do you feel now? Lighter. Like maybe I'm not the terrible father Linda made me believe I was. You're not. You're a father whose son was poisoned against him. That's different. Yeah, it is. We finished our meal, went home, sat on our couch in our condo that Brian had never visited and never would. And Greg said, I'm happy here. Really happy. Me too. Thank you for making me choose. You're welcome. I chose right. Yes, you did. My name is Karen Mitchell. I'm 54 years old. 6 months ago, my stepson brought his mother to live in my house, without asking me. So I sold the house, forced my husband to choose, started fresh in a new place where Brian has no claim. Was it extreme? Maybe. Was it necessary? Absolutely. Because some violations can't be forgiven or forgotten. They require decisive action, clear consequences, permanent change. Brian thought he could manipulate the situation, move Linda in, force us to accept it, guilt-trip us into compliance. He was wrong, and now he knows I'm not someone who accepts boundary violations. I'm someone who takes dramatic action when pushed. The house is sold. Brian is out. Greg has chosen, and we're living our best life without the drama. That's justice. That's boundary enforcement. That's power. Share this if you've ever had to make a hard decision to protect your home. Comment if you've had to force someone to choose. Subscribe to Lindsay Stories for more stories of boundary enforcement. My house, my rules, my decision. And it changed everything. That's everything. Before I close this story, there are some truths about boundary violations and home ownership that need to be said. Truths I learned through this experience. Truths that might help someone else facing similar situations. The first truth, your home is your sanctuary, and protecting it is not negotiable. People talk about compromise, about being flexible, about accommodating family, and those things have their place. But not when it comes to your home. Your home is where you're supposed to feel completely safe. completely in control, completely at peace. If someone violates that, moves someone in without asking, disrespects your space, treats your property like it's theirs, you have every right to respond decisively. I didn't overreact by selling the house. I removed a source of ongoing conflict. I took away Brian's perceived claim. I made it impossible for future violations. Some people thought I should have just made Linda leave and moved on. But they don't understand. The violation wasn't just Linda being there for a few hours. It was Brian thinking he had the right to make that decision. It was Greg not immediately shutting it down. It was my home being treated like community property instead of my private space. Selling the house wasn't about Linda. It was about reclaiming absolute control over my living situation, making it clear that nobody, not Brian, not Greg, not anyone, could make decisions about where I lived without my explicit consent. That's not extreme. That's self-protection. The second truth, marriage requires choosing, and your spouse should come first. This makes people uncomfortable. But what about your children? Family is family. You can't ask someone to choose. Yes, you can. And yes, you should. Adult children are not your spouse. They have their own lives, their own homes, their own priority. Your relationship with them should never come at the expense of your marriage. Greg spent years trying to maintain relationships with both me and Brian, while Brian actively undermined our marriage. It was exhausting for Greg, and painful for me, and it didn't even work. Brian still resented both of us. When I forced Greg to choose, I wasn't being cruel. I was being clear. Our marriage had to be the priority, not Brian's feelings, not Linda's machinations. Us. And once Greg chose, really chose, not just said he chose, everything got better. The guilt lifted. The conflict ended. We could actually be married instead of constantly managing Brian's resentment. Healthy marriages require spouses to put each other first. Not their kids, not their exes, not their extended family. Each other. That's not selfish. That's how marriage works. The third truth, you can't fix relationships with people who don't want to be fixed. I spent years trying to build a relationship with Brian, sent care packages, remembered birthdays, asked about his life, invited him places, tried to connect. He never reciprocated, never tried, never wanted a relationship with me. And I finally accepted. I can't force someone to care about me. I can't make Brian see me as family. I can't fix what Linda broke in their relationship with Greg. The only thing I could do was stop trying, stop hoping, stop investing emotional energy in someone who actively rejected me. That acceptance was freeing. Once I stopped needing Brian's approval or affection, his behavior couldn't hurt me anymore. He was just Greg's difficult son, not someone I had to win over, not someone whose opinion mattered. Relationships require mutual effort. When one person is trying and the other isn't, it's not a relationship. It's one person chasing and the other running away. I stopped chasing, and my life got infinitely better. The fourth truth, property ownership matters, especially in blended families. I kept my house in my name, even after marrying Greg, even after 15 years together. And that decision saved me, because when the violation happened, when Brian brought Linda there, I had the legal right to sell, to make decisions, to remove the problem entirely. If the house had been in both our names, Greg could have blocked the sale, could have insisted we stay, could have kept us trapped in a space that had been contaminated. But it was mine, solely mine, which meant I had absolute authority to do what needed to be done. People in blended families need to think carefully about property, about keeping some assets separate, about maintaining independence even within marriage, not because you don't trust your spouse, but because you need to protect yourself from outside interference, from manipulative adult children, from exes who never go away. My separate property ownership gave me power when I needed it most, and I'll never regret maintaining that separation. The fifth truth, dramatic action sometimes is the only thing that works. Could I have handled this differently? Let Linda leave and moved on with life? Tried to work through Brian's behavior through conversation? Maybe. But those gentler approaches had failed for 15 years. Brian didn't respect boundaries, didn't respect me, didn't respect Greg's marriage. Gentle reminders and careful conversations hadn't changed that. But selling the house? That sent an unmistakable message. That showed Brian I was serious. That made consequences real and permanent. Sometimes people only learn when faced with dramatic action. When they lose something they took for granted. When they realize their behavior has real costs. Brian thought he could manipulate us. Thought he could guilt-trip Greg. Thought I'd eventually cave to keep the peace. The sale proved him wrong. Showed him I'd rather upend my entire living situation than accept his violation of my boundaries. That's the kind of lesson that sticks. Not lectures, not conversations. Action. Decisive, permanent, dramatic action. 3 weeks ago, I got an email from Brian. Not a letter this time. An email to my work account. How he got it, I don't know. Karen, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and I know Dad isn't speaking to me, but I wanted to say something. I've been in therapy, working through stuff, and my therapist says I need to take responsibility for my actions. So here it is. I was wrong to bring Mom to your house without asking you. I was wrong to think I could make that decision. I was wrong to call you a bitch when you said no. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to respond. But I wanted you to know I understand now that what I did was a violation. It was manipulative. It was disrespectful. I'm sorry. Brian, I showed Greg. What do you think? I think he's in therapy, and the therapist made him write this. That's what I think too. Does it sound genuine? Parts of it. But notice what's missing. What? Any explanation of why he did it? Any acknowledgement of the years of hostility before that? Any understanding of how Linda manipulated the situation? It's just, I was wrong. Sorry. So you don't believe it? I don't know if I believe it. But more importantly, I don't care. An apology doesn't undo the violation. Doesn't earn him back into our lives. Doesn't change anything. Are you going to respond? I don't know. What do you think I should do? What do you want to do? I thought about it. What did I want? Closure. Reconciliation. Nothing. I think I want to acknowledge it, but make clear that acknowledgement isn't forgiveness or relationship restoration. That seems fair. I wrote back. Brian, I received your email. I appreciate the apology. It sounds like therapy is helping you understand the impact of your actions. However, an apology doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't restore trust. It doesn't create a relationship where one never really existed. You violated my home, called me names, showed complete disrespect for my boundaries and my marriage to your father. Those actions have consequences. I don't hate you. I don't wish you ill. But I also don't have any interest in having you in my life. We tried for 15 years to build a relationship. You made it clear you wanted no part of that. So now I'm making it clear. I'm done trying. Your father can decide for himself whether he wants to rebuild a relationship with you. But I won't be part of it. We'll never be family. We'll never be close. The best we can hope for is neutral distance. I hope therapy helps you. I hope you have a good life. But I hope you have it somewhere far from me. Karen. I sent it. Felt nothing. No guilt. No anger. Nothing. How do you feel? Greg asked. Empty. In a good way? Like I've finally closed a door that should have been closed years ago. Is that what the email did? Yes. He apologized. I acknowledged it. And now we're done. No more wondering if we should try again. No more hoping he'll change. Just done. Do you think he'll respond? Probably not. And if he does, I won't engage. I've said everything I need to say. Brian didn't respond. That was 3 weeks ago. I don't expect to hear from him again. Last week, Greg and I celebrated 1 year in our new condo. We had friends over, cooked a big meal, toasted to new beginnings. To this time last year, I said, raising my glass, when we were packing up the old house, scared but hopeful. To not being scared anymore, Greg added. Just hopeful. To choosing each other, someone said. To boundary enforcement, Sarah added with a grin. We laughed, drank, celebrated a year of peace, of clarity, of marriage without interference. Later that night, after everyone left, Greg and I sat on our balcony overlooking the city. "Do you miss it?" he asked. "The old house?" "No. Do you?" "Sometimes I miss the idea of it. The space. The yard. But not the reality. Not the memories. Not the violation. Me neither. I'm glad we did this. Glad you made me do this. I didn't make you. I gave you a choice. You gave me an ultimatum. Same thing. No. An ultimatum is do this or else. Gah! A choice is this is what I'm doing. Will you join me? You were selling the house no matter what. I just had to decide if I was coming with you. And I'm glad I came. This is better. We're better. Yes, we are. I talked to my therapist about it last week. About selling the house. About cutting off Brian. About all of it. What did she say? She said it sounded like we'd set healthy boundaries. That removing ourselves from a toxic situation was smart. That adult children don't have the right to make demands on their parents' lives. She's right. She also said I probably held on too long. That I should have set those boundaries years ago. That my guilt about the divorce kept me from protecting you and our marriage. You were doing your best. My best wasn't good enough. I let Brian treat you like shit for 15 years because I felt guilty about leaving Linda. You didn't leave Linda. She left you. I know. But I still felt guilty. Guilty that Brian's childhood was disrupted. Guilty that he had to split time between homes. Guilty that Linda was bitter and alone. So I let him punish you. And that was wrong. Yes, it was. I'm sorry. I know. Do you forgive me? I forgave you when you chose to support the sale. When you chose our marriage over your guilt. That's when I knew we'd be okay. I love you. I love you too. We sat in comfortable silence, looking at the city lights, in our home that was actually ours, free from ghosts and guilt and interference. And I felt profound peace, the kind that comes from knowing you made the right choice, the hard choice, the choice that everyone questioned, but you knew was necessary. 2 days ago, I ran into someone who knew Brian, an old co-worker of Greg's, who'd met Brian at a company picnic years ago. "Hey, Karen, how are you? How's Brian doing?" "I don't know. We're not in touch." "Oh, that's sad. Did something happen?" "Yes. He violated my boundaries. I responded by removing him from my life." The guy looked uncomfortable. "That seems harsh. Does it? He tried to move his mother into my house without asking. Called me a bitch when I said no. What would you have done?" "Well, I mean, family is complicated. He's not my family. He's my husband's adult son, who has made it clear for 15 years that he doesn't see me as family. So I stopped pretending. Still, cutting someone off completely? Tell me something. If someone came into your house without permission and started moving their mother in, would you let them stay? No, but then don't judge my choices. Brian learned that actions have consequences. That's not harsh. That's life." The guy backed off, made excuses to leave, clearly uncomfortable with my directness. I didn't care. I'm done justifying my boundaries to people who weren't there, who don't understand what I dealt with, who think family obligations override personal rights. They don't. Family is earned. Respect is earned. Access to my life is earned. Brian didn't earn any of it, so he doesn't get any of it. Simple as that. My name is Karen Mitchell. I'm 54 years old. 1 year ago, my stepson brought his mother to live in my house without asking me. So I sold the house, started fresh, cut ties with Brian, forced Greg to choose our marriage. It was the right decision, the only decision. And I sleep peacefully every night, knowing I protected my boundaries, my marriage, and my sanity. Some people will never understand. They'll think I overreacted, think I was cruel, think I should have been more accommodating. Those people don't matter. Their opinions don't pay my bills, or live my life, or sleep in my bed. What matters is that I stood up for myself, that I refused to be violated, that I made decisive choices when decisive action was needed. And now, I live in peace, with a husband who finally prioritizes our marriage, in a home that's truly ours, free from interference and manipulation and guilt. That's worth every difficult conversation, every hard choice, every person who thinks I was wrong, because I know I was right. And so does Greg. And that's all that matters. Share this if you've ever had to enforce boundaries with family. Comment if you've had to make a dramatic decision to protect your home. Subscribe to Lindsay's Stories for more stories of boundary enforcement and self-protection. My house, my rules, my decision, my peace. And I'll defend all of it without apology. That's everything. One final truth that nobody wants to hear. Sometimes the only way to win is to change the game entirely. Brian thought we were playing his game, the game where he made demands. We felt guilty, and eventually we caved. The game where Linda pulled strings and I absorbed the consequences. The game where Greg was torn between us and I was expected to be endlessly patient. I changed the game, sold the board, walked away to a new arena where Brian had no power. That's not running away. That's strategic brilliance. People who've never been in a blended family don't understand the constant power struggles, the manipulation, the way adult children weaponize guilt, the way exes hover in the background, influencing and undermining. You can't fight those battles on their terms. You'll lose. They have years of history and established dynamics and emotional leverage, but you can change the terms, remove the battlefield, create new ground where they have no advantage. That's what selling the house did. It removed Brian's psychological leverage. He couldn't claim his room or his childhood home anymore. He had no foothold, no familiar territory, just the reality that we'd moved on without him. And that's the lesson. When you can't win the game, don't play. Change the rules, change the field. Create a new reality where you have the power. 6 months ago, Greg's mother, Brian's grandmother, called. She'd heard about everything through family gossip. "Greg, what's this I hear about you not speaking to Brian?" "It's true. We're not in contact. But why? He's your son." He violated Karen's home, called her a bitch, showed complete disrespect for our marriage. "But surely you can work it out. Family is family." Bah. Not when family tries to move my ex-wife into my current wife's house without permission. That's not family. That's manipulation. I'm sure Brian didn't mean... He absolutely meant it. It was deliberate. And when we said no, he attacked Karen. So now there are consequences. You're breaking your mother's heart, Greg. I'm protecting my marriage, Mom. If that breaks your heart, I'm sorry. But my marriage comes first. Even before your son? Yes, even before my adult son, who has shown nothing but contempt for my wife for 15 years. She hung up angry, called back 2 days later to say she was disappointed in him, that she'd raised him better than this. Greg blocked her number too. "You blocked your mother?" I was shocked. She was trying to guilt me into reconciling with Brian, using the same manipulation tactics Linda uses. I'm done with that. But she's your mother, and she's choosing Brian's side without knowing the full story, without respecting my marriage, without caring about what Karen needs. So yes, I blocked her. How do you feel about that? Liberated. Turns out when you start setting boundaries with one person, it gets easier to set them with everyone else who oversteps. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. We're building something here. Something that doesn't include people who don't respect us. A fortress of peace. Exactly. 4 months ago, I got a message on LinkedIn from Linda. Apparently, she'd found me there after I blocked her everywhere else. "Karen, I know we've never had a good relationship, and I know I played a part in that, but I wanted to reach out because Brian is really struggling. He misses his father. He's depressed. He's isolated. I'm worried about him. I'm not asking you to forgive him or have a relationship with him, but could you talk to Greg? Could you encourage him to reach out to Brian? As a mother yourself." "Oh, wait. You're not a mother." "Well, as someone who cares about Greg, couldn't you see that this is hurting him too? Please help me help my son." Linda. The manipulation in that message, the guilt tripping, the subtle dig about me not being a mother, the assumption that I'd care about Brian's well-being after everything. I didn't respond. Blocked her on LinkedIn too. Showed Greg. "She's desperate," he said after reading it. "She's manipulative." That too. Look at this. As a mother yourself. Oh, wait. You're not a mother. She couldn't resist taking a shot at you even while asking for help. That's Linda. Venom wrapped in victim speak. Are you upset? No, I'm relieved. This confirms we made the right choice. Someone who can't ask for help without being cruel isn't someone we need in our lives. Even if Brian really is struggling. If Brian is struggling, he can get therapy. He can call his father himself. He can apologize and try to make amends. What he can't do is have his mother manipulate us into reaching out. That's not how it works. You're right. I know I am. 3 months ago, we got a wedding invitation. Brian's friend Michael, the one we'd run into at the restaurant, was getting married, and he'd invited us. Should we go? Greg asked. Do you want to? I like Michael. I'd like to support him, but Brian will probably be there. As best man, probably. Can you handle seeing him? Can you? I thought about it. Could I be in the same room as Brian? Watch him probably glare at us? Deal with the awkwardness? Yes, I can handle it. Question is, can he? What do you mean? I mean, we'll be fine. We're living our best life. Happy, settled, at peace. Brian's the one who's supposedly depressed and struggling. Seeing us thriving might be hard for him. You're not concerned about him being there? No. Why would I be? He has no power over me anymore. He can't hurt me. He can't violate my space. He's just an angry young man I used to know. We went to the wedding. Brian was there. Best man, as predicted. He saw us. His face went hard. But he didn't approach. Didn't speak to us. Kept his distance. During the reception, Michael came over. Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you would, given everything. We're happy to support you, Greg said. You and Brian's issues are separate. I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, Brian's been pretty miserable lately. I don't think he expected you guys to actually cut him off completely. We didn't cut him off. He cut himself off by his behavior. I know. I told him that. Told him he fucked up and needs to take responsibility. But he's stubborn. Always has been. Anyway, just wanted you to know. I think you guys made the right choice. Setting boundaries. It's healthy. Thank you. After Michael left, Greg said, Did you see Brian watching us? Yes. He looked angry. Of course he did. We're happy, thriving, not falling apart without him. That's probably killing him. Is that cruel? To be happy when he's struggling? No. It's reality. We're not responsible for his happiness. He made choices. They had consequences. We moved on. That's not cruel. That's life. You're right. I know. We stayed for the whole reception. Danced. Talked with friends. Had a wonderful time. And Brian watched from across the room, scowling. On the drive home, Greg was quiet. What are you thinking? I asked. That seeing Brian today didn't hurt like I thought it would. I felt nothing. No guilt. No sadness. Just nothing. Is that good or bad? Good, I think. It means I've really let go. He's not my son anymore. Not in any meaningful way. He's just someone I used to know who made bad choices. How does that feel? Free. Completely free. 2 months ago, we went on a cruise. 2 weeks. Caribbean. Complete disconnect from real life. On the ship, we met other couples, made friends, had dinners together. And inevitably, people asked about kids. Do you have children? Someone asked Greg. I have a son. We're not in contact. Oh, I'm sorry. That must be hard. It was. But we've made peace with it. What happened, if you don't mind me asking? He violated boundaries, disrespected my wife, made choices that ended our relationship. And you don't regret cutting him off? No, because keeping him in my life was destroying my marriage. I chose my wife. I'd make that choice again every time. The woman looked at her husband. Something passed between them. Then she said, We have a daughter we don't speak to. For similar reasons. She was toxic, manipulative. We finally cut her off 2 years ago. Hardest thing we ever did. How do you feel now? Peaceful. Guilty sometimes. But mostly peaceful. Our marriage is better. Our lives are calmer. We miss who we thought she was. But we don't miss the reality of who she actually is. That's exactly it, Greg said. I miss the idea of Brian, the son I thought I'd have. But I don't miss the real Brian, the one who treated Karen like garbage, the one Linda raised to hate me. It's hard when other people don't understand. Very hard. They think we're monsters, heartless. But they weren't there. They didn't live it. No, They didn't. That conversation was validating. Meeting other people who'd made similar choices, who'd prioritized their marriages over toxic adult children, who'd found peace in letting go. We're not alone. We're not monsters. We're just people who drew boundaries and enforced them. 1 month ago, on our condo's 1-year anniversary, I did something symbolic. I took the last photo I had of Brian, from years ago, when he was still visiting, and I threw it away. Not in anger, not with ceremony, just threw it away, like any other piece of paper I no longer needed. Greg saw me do it. Symbolic? Very. How do you feel? Complete. Like I've finally let go of the last piece of hoping he'd change, of wishing we could have been family. It's done now. Really done. No regrets? None. You? None. Just gratitude that we made it through, that we chose each other, that we're here. Yes, we're here. And it's good. It's better than good. It's exactly what I wanted when I married you. It took us 15 years to get here. Better late than never. Agreed. Last week, I was talking to a new friend I'd made in our building. She asked about family. I told her the basic story. That's brave, she said. Selling your house, forcing that choice. A lot of people wouldn't have done that. A lot of people stay in situations that make them miserable because they're afraid of being seen as difficult or harsh. And you're not afraid of that? I used to be. Spent years being accommodating, trying to make everyone happy. Being the good stepmom. It got me nothing but disrespect and violation. So you changed tactics. I stopped tactics entirely. I just became honest. This is what I need. This is what I won't accept. This is the consequence if you cross me. No games, no manipulation, just clarity. And it worked. Better than anything else I tried. I should learn from you. I have a sister who constantly oversteps. I keep accommodating her because I don't want family drama. How's that working out? It's not. She keeps pushing. I keep giving in. And I'm miserable. Then stop. Draw the line. Enforce consequences. She'll either learn or you'll cut her off. Either way, you win. But what about family? Family is people who respect you. Everyone else is just relatives. And you don't owe relatives your peace. She looked at me like I'd given her permission she'd been waiting for. You're right. Thank you. You're welcome. Good luck. I don't know if she'll actually set boundaries with her sister. Most people don't. They keep absorbing disrespect because they're afraid of conflict or guilt or being seen as the bad guy. But I hope she does. I hope my story gives her courage. Because life is too short to let toxic people, even family, steal your peace. My name is Karen Mitchell. I'm 54 years old. 1 year ago, I made a decision that shocked everyone. I sold my house because my stepson violated it. But it wasn't really about the house. It was about power, control, refusing to accept violation, setting boundaries so clear they couldn't be ignored. And you know what? It worked. My marriage is stronger. My life is peaceful. My boundaries are respected. I don't have a relationship with Brian. Probably never will. And I'm completely okay with that. Because I have something better. Self-respect. A husband who prioritizes me. A home that's truly mine. Peace. That's worth more than any relationship with someone who doesn't respect me. Share this if you've ever had to make a hard choice to protect your boundaries. Comment if you've enforced consequences that shocked people. Subscribe to Lindsay Stories for more stories of self-protection and boundary enforcement. My house, my marriage, my peace, my choice. And I'll defend all of it without apology or regret. That's everything. This morning I woke up in my condo, made coffee, looked out at the city, and felt nothing but peace. No anxiety about Brian showing up. No guilt about not trying harder. No resentment about years wasted. Just peace. That's the gift of decisive action, of choosing yourself, of refusing to be violated. The old Karen would have let Linda stay, would have swallowed her anger, would have tried to make it work, would have accommodated and compromised and slowly lost herself. The new Karen sold the house, set boundaries, chose her marriage, protected her peace. I like the new Karen better. So does Greg, and that's all that matters. 1 year ago, violated and powerless, Today, protected and peaceful. The difference: one decision, one choice, one refusal to accept unacceptable treatment. If I can do it, so can you. Your home is your sanctuary. Protect it without apology, without guilt, without hesitation. That's everything. My house, my rules, my decision, my peace, my life. Protected, defended, unapologetic. That's everything.